Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about this song called Poor Black Mattie, the RL Burnside version. Sometimes it's called Cold Black Mattie or Old Black Mattie. It's a hill country blues groove, and that means it's very percussive. It means it's just basically one chord going throughout the whole thing, and it's really, a lot about this right hand technique. So the cool part about it is it's kind of short phrases, and you can just work on getting like a couple measures at a time and work on that groove, work on really your rhythm and getting that groove down the best you can. We want it to be grooving, we want it to be really percussive and just hypnotic and really fun to play, and like you get in this kind of like flow state in your mind where you can just kind of let your mind wander and you kind of just let the music take you away, and it's really fun. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to play the riff. Also, I'm going to show you all the variations that RL does while he's playing it. Also, I'm going to show you the Black Keys version. Their version is just slightly different. We'll talk about that at the end. So that's it. Let's jump into the lesson. All right, cool. So first thing you got to know is that we're in an open tuning here. This is an open G. So what does that mean? I'll show you the notes low to high. So I'll say it fast and then say it slow. So it's D, G, D, G, B, D. Okay, so follow that on the screen there. Basically, all you have to do is tune the high and the low down to D. Okay, tune the A string down to G, and that's it. So just 3 strings. You're just tuning the 2 Ds, the 2 E strings down to D, and then the A string down to G. And then this one stays as D, this one stays as G, this one stays as B. Okay, open G. It's real fun tuning. RL Burnside uses it all the time. A bunch of other players use it all the time. It's at first it's a little intimidating doing an open tuning, but there's so many benefits of it because you get this nice kind of open chord that it's just so easy to play, and especially with this groove style, this hill country style, the open tuning really helps out a lot. So if you got an extra guitar laying around, an extra acoustic or electric, see if you can throw it in open G and try to have some fun doing this riff. All right, let's talk about the riff now. So there's a bunch of variations on this riff. It's a basic kind of 2-measure riff that basically repeats over and over again, but there's these variations. So first let's do the basic groove, like the basic method of getting the sound. So what you got to do here is this thing. I'm just going to play it without any notes. Okay, hear that percussive? Hear that percussive sound that I'm getting? Okay, and if you just take a really focus on my right hand here, you can see I'm getting all those percussive hits mostly with the thumb. The thumb is doing this motion, okay? And then the finger, the index finger, is doing upstrokes on the upbeats. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and notice the thumb is hitting on beats 1 kind of quietly on just the 5th string, okay? And then on beats 2 and 4 you're going to hit real hard, okay? To try to get a click sound as well as the chord, okay? So if you're playing the actual notes, it'll sound like this, okay? Now that's the important thing. You got to be able to get that groove in to get it to sound right, okay? So that's the basic groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice the index finger is popping in between. 1, 2, 3, 4. With the swing rhythm. 2 and 3 and 4. Okay? And then it goes, then pick up the speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? That's really important. Just getting that kind of groove down before the notes, I think, is important to do. While RL is singing, he kind of does a simplified version of the riff. And let's start with that. And that sounds like this. Okay, now take a look at the tab. The tab is a little bit confusing here. A lot with these hill country blues, the tabs can be kind of confusing because there's no way to tell all the different right-hand techniques. So following these videos is really the best thing to do. But get these tabs for reference. If you're an FJ member, you can print them out so you can have them as reference so you don't have to keep coming back to the video. But check it out. What we have here, if you notice on beat 1, it's just an open 5th string, okay? The second beat looks like that, okay? And it's weird because we have an X on this string and then 2 opens. Now don't get too caught up in trying to get that exactly right. What really I want you guys to do is instead is try to get this feel, okay? That hard kind of slap feel. One of the things that I'm doing there is kind of using the bonier side of my thumb to get that percussive kind of pop. It's kind of a lot like almost like slap bass playing. They're going to use that side of their thumb too. So in order to get that, you know, percussive sound, if you're using the pad part of your finger, it's harder to get, like, you know, really nail it down. You can do it still, but I think it's easiest to kind of try to use that bony side part of your thumb. So we're hitting 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the basic rhythm. Now let's go through that riff again. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay. Now notice the plucks of the index finger are indicated as an X2, but a lot of times when I'm playing it, you can hear that I'm getting a tone in there. You just want to make sure that it's short. You don't want it to be like, although that does kind of sound pretty cool, but you know, that's a different groove, that's a different kind of song altogether if you were to play it like that. Back to the riff, the actual notes. So we go 1, slap, and then we come over here and we do 3-0, okay? On the 5th string, it doesn't really matter which finger because that's the only fret we're playing here. So I like to use my 3rd finger. You can use your 2nd or 1st or whatever. 3rd finger, pull off, then slap. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and, okay? The second measure doesn't do the pull off. So it just goes 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. So putting them together, it sounds like this. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay, so that's an important groove to kind of start with because that's the basic groove that he's doing throughout. That'll give you the basic right hand technique to be able to play the whole thing. Okay, let's go through all the variations and the actual riff that he's doing. It starts off the song. Okay, often he'll kind of just play that a couple of times, that little slide 1 to 3, and then to catch the 3rd fret on the 1st string. Okay, he'll kind of start with that by itself sometimes. Sometimes he just starts right into the song. Okay, and then just go straight into the riff. So the first riff is going to sound like this. Okay, that's the kind of first basic riff. Now, one thing that happens in all of these riffs just about is this kind of phrase that goes on the 2nd string. We're going 1, 3, so sliding 1st finger from 1st fret, 2nd string to 3rd fret, and then the 3rd fret of the 1st string. That happens in a lot of these riffs, almost in almost every single one. Almost every one of these riffs has that little phrase. Okay, so that's the first one. So we're pinching those two together, thumb and index finger on the 5th string and the 3rd string, okay? Then slap, and then that little pluck of the finger, and then okay? So just very slowly, let me play the riff. So you'll notice that the right hand technique basically stays the same. The only difference is we're adding in. Okay, now make sure when you're playing that, you can add in, make sure when you're playing that, you know, you just kind of follow where the notes is. On this little slide, like that part, you have to slide, that 1st fret here is in between the beat. So it's like this. Okay, once you're sliding to 3 and then hitting the open 5th string when you get to that 3rd fret, like that. So you might want to, that's something that's kind of tricky to do, is you might want to practice that by itself. A bunch of times like that. Now, one thing I also want to mention too is sometimes when you're playing it, you'll notice that I'm getting more of a click only instead of just, you know, the click and the notes. It's the click is the important part, and the percussive thing is the important part here. The notes are just there so that once you want more energy, once you play it with more energy like that, those notes will be more obvious. But I don't want you to think that, I don't want you guys to get caught up trying to do, you know, a perfect like click and those 3 notes at once. The click is the important thing, and what you're aiming for is just kind of this area, these 3 strings, okay? And if you hit it with a good amount of effort, it's gonna make a cool click and a cool sound. So don't get too caught up on the tabs here, guys. Use the tabs for reference, but try to follow by ear and really concentrate on the rhythms, okay? All right, let's move on to the next phrase. So the next phrase, it's exactly the same as what we just did, but we're adding 1 note. So instead of just going, we're doing this. Okay, so all we're doing is sliding 1, 3 to the 3rd fret of the 1st string, and then hitting the 5th fret of the 1st string with the open 5th string. So, so altogether it's like this. Okay, now when he's playing this, usually he kind of goes through in this order. He'll play kind of as written on the screen. He'll play that phrase that we just did twice, and then he'll go on to the next phrase twice, and then the last phrase twice. And then there's some more variations we'll talk about after that. But check it out. Let's do the next phrase. So the next phrase is super similar again, but instead of going like that, instead of that phrase, it does this. Okay, so instead of hitting this 5th fret, it just goes back down 3 to 1 and then open. So in context, it sounds like this. Okay, variation on the basic riff. The last one that he plays in a row here sounds like this. So instead of doing that, he's doing this phrase, just that phrase. Okay, and we're adding that into where the same spot is. The rhythm is the same. Instead of doing that, we're doing, okay? So that altogether sounds like this. So all the phrases, as you can see, are really, really similar. And that's why I think it's so important for you guys to just work on that first one that we talked about, which, you know, it's just that phrase. Because that right hand is really kind of what's holding the whole groove down, okay? Great. Some other variations that RL plays sometimes, it sounds like this. So one of them, instead of doing the, okay, he'll do this. And with all the right hand stuff, that all together sounds like this. So there's a really subtle variation. It's almost exactly the same. And then at one point, RL always kind of does a variation where he doesn't do any of the percussion and none of the syncopation. So what I mean by that is he'll do this. So you can hear there that it's the same kind of riff, but he's kind of doing a more of a boom chuck style. No palm muting, or anything. Just this, alternating kind of thumb, just going 5th string and hitting the 3rd and 4th strings. Okay, alternating like that. Okay, with the kind of basic riff and none of the percussion or the syncopation with the finger. Okay. So that's the other version he does. He kind of almost does that as like a solo section, and he does it just as variation. The cool part is when he does this variation without the syncopation or the percussion. When he goes back into the syncopation and percussion, it sounds really cool, and that'll be like this. Okay, so it's a cool kind of like, it's a cool way to kind of enhance the percussion part by taking it away for a little bit. It's like a breakdown, and then when you bring it back, it just feels cool for the listener. All right, so lastly, I said that we would talk about the Black Keys version. Okay, the Black Keys version is pretty much the same. The only real difference here is that they're playing with a band, so Dan Auerbach is not doing as much of the percussion, but he is doing a little bit of it. And the main difference is they do a kind of different phrase instead of the bass line's kind of more like this. So they're doubling up that 3-3-0 there, okay? They're also doing this. Okay, the only difference there is I'm pushing this 5th fret note up a half beat. So it kind of, you hit that note before you come back to the bass note. So it's and 3 and 4 and 1. 3, 4, 1, 2. And 3 and 4 and 1, 2. And 3, 4, 1. Okay, so that's the main difference between the Black Keys version. Now, putting all this stuff together is going to take you guys a while. The main idea is really just concentrate on getting that right hand technique down. And you can use this for a bunch of different songs. Like once you get this right hand technique, it's really useful for a lot of R.L. Burnside songs, a lot of other hill country blues songs and stuff like that. So that's the main thing to kind of concentrate on. And if you're starting this for the first time, don't think that this is something that it's going to feel super natural to do. It's going to take a while. It's like learning strumming all over again because it's a different kind of way to do it. But once you do it, it starts to feel pretty comfortable once you get it. And it's real fun to play that way. So hope you guys had fun learning this one. And that's it. I'll see you guys on the next one.